Big news out of the UK this week, where Parliament just signed off on Prime Minister Theresa May's request for an early general election, which they call a snap poll. So instead of an election in 2020, it'll happen in June, this June, exactly 7 weeks from today, with Brexit very much on the minds of voters and politicians alike.
Every vote for the Conservatives will make me stronger when I negotiate for Britain with the European Union. And every vote for the Conservatives will mean we can stick to our plan for a stronger Britain.
We welcome the general election, but this is a Prime Minister who promised there wouldn't be one. A Prime Minister who cannot be trusted. She says it's about leadership, yet is refusing to defend her record in television debates.
If the debates were to be anything like that one, they could be even more entertaining than ours. But should people in Massachusetts even care? Joining me now for the answer is the British Consul General to New England, Harriet Cross. Consul General, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for being here. And welcome to Boston, by the way.
Thank you very much.
You're fairly new to town. Narrow victory last June. If there was a vote today, would people still vote to leave the EU?
That's an impossible question to answer.
Well, give me an impossible answer as best you can.
I think there are still two camps in the UK, people who still would like to remain in the EU and very much people who would still want to leave. So I think the UK is still, there are still two portions, if you like.
Well, as an outsider, the reason I don't understand that, and I haven't seen any polling, is just pick one of the major promises that the Brexit forces had made, at least from what I understand, is there are hundreds of millions of pounds we send to the EU every day. We're going to just keep that money here, put it in the National Health Service. That'd be pretty appealing to me, too. The day after the vote, you start hearing, well, not really. There's 100 million that goes to this, 100 million goes... So proponents of Brexit don't feel betrayed by the arguments of those who led them to Brexit? That hasn't had that kind of an impact?
I would say the two biggest promises that were made were one, we'll get control over our own laws,
right.
So we'll get sovereignty back, and we'll be able to control migration and immigration into the UK.
And those are still in place, you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
The Prime Minister, and correct me if I'm wrong, your boss, your boss, was, at least from what I read, mildly pro-Brexit in public, wildly pro-Brexit Remain in public, and wildly pro-Remain in some private speeches like the Goldman Sachs that came out later. Is that a fair characterization of where she was?
She was certainly a Remainer. That's true to say, and she's been very open about that.
So what I don't understand, again, from across the ocean, is if the vote was this close, and some of the pledges, even though the ones you mentioned, arguably people still believe, one, she moves to implement this Article 50, is that what it's called?
Yep.
Okay, to get this whole tier process going. And then, as the gentleman just said, violates a campaign pledge in which she had said, no election until 2020, to move it up 3 years to just a few weeks away. Boy, if we could only do that kind of thing here. So why has she embraced it so wholeheartedly if she was at least a little on the other side and the vote was so close? I just don't get that.
The vote was 52% of people who voted to leave the EU, so it wasn't kind of knife edge. It was a clear majority of people who voted to leave. And her mandate is to implement the will of the people. So that's what she's doing, and that's how she...
But with a passion, it seems. I mean, even this electoral thing, were you not surprised, as an individual, I don't know if you can even answer it, were you not surprised by the fact that she said we should have an election now rather than... I know it's to strengthen her power within Parliament, at least that's her hope, but you're not surprised?
I was surprised. I think absolutely fair to say I was surprised. I think most people in government were surprised. But she's got every authority to do that. And as you say, Parliament voted 522 to 13. So it's a kind of
522 to 13?
Yeah, for holding a general election. So it's a bipartisan agreement that this should happen.
Are you part of those people who believe that Brexit was replicated here on November 8th, essentially a variation on a theme with the election of Donald Trump?
I think there were similar themes in the sense that the people wanted their voice heard, or certain people wanted their voice heard, and they spoke up loudly on both sides of the Atlantic.
And part of that anti-immigration thing, too, was here, too. That thing you mentioned in the UK was present here on November 8th, too, don't you think?
It was certainly present in the UK. I don't have the expertise to talk about US elections.
So is it fair to say that some of the same passion in other parts of Europe, France, for example, don't have potentially as benign an effect as as sort of this nationalistic thing that we've seen in some parts of the world. Do people in Europe worry about what could happen in places like France if they follow this Brexit spirit, or no?
I think people are worried about what will happen if certain parties win the election in France, that's for sure. I don't think people necessarily think that because the UK has exited or is going to exit from the EU, that other countries will do that.
I didn't even mean the Brexit. I just meant this whole nationalistic, America first, France first, whatever kind of thing. Spirit. So you told us when you were on the radio with me and Marjorie Egan, Brexit is good for Massachusetts. Why is it good for Massachusetts?
It's good for Massachusetts because the UK will want to do more trade with Massachusetts. So already we're doing $4 billion worth of exporting.
What does that mean in real terms? I mean, how many workers, what does that mean?
Oh, so for example, 60,000 jobs in Massachusetts exist as a result of trade with the UK. And that will increase. So trade with the UK equals jobs in Massachusetts in all sorts of sectors.
And how have we done at luring UK firms to the United States?
We've done really well.
What are we talking about?
Yeah. Well, for example, there are 358 UK subsidiaries in Massachusetts alone. So that's an awful lot of businesses here, and they're growing all the time.
Now, you're the Consul General. Obviously, it's important that you be respected. Is that not clear?
I would say so.
So what should I make of the fact that your cat has 1/6 as many followers as you do? What should I take away? Consul General.
Consul General.
Yes. What should I take away?
The real issue is that Consul General has more followers than my husband. That's a bone of contention in the family.
I bet it is, isn't it?
So
if we could only follow one, should we follow? Is it a male or female cat?
It's a male cat.
Would you recommend
Claudius.
following the male cat or following you?
So firstly, follow me, Harry VX, Harry at Victoria Cross.
I knew that.
Then follow the cat, Consul General, and if you must, follow my husband.
Consul General, it's great to see you. I hope we
Nice
see you a
to
lot
talk
in
to
your
you
time
too,
here.
Jim.